So I'm back here to talk about managers. And that's been a topic of debate for about 10 to 15 years now at Manchester United, as the manager carousel is seeming to continue, because Ruben Amorim is hanging on by a thread. And I'd say hanging on by a thread, but I think that's even probably exaggerating it a little bit. It does feel like we know what's going to happen. And the focus has turned to where will United turn next in terms of a managerial candidate. So I thought I'd give my 2 pence on a couple of managers that we have been linked to. You've seen the likes of Glasner, Iraola. There was a shortlist that was forked up by Ben Jacobs, of the likes of Hürzeler and Iraola and Glasner. Even the mention of Southgate, but I probably won't even acknowledge that. That might be the end for me managing a club if that was the case. But that's part of the problem and part of the concern why, even though people can visibly see that Amorim is failing and there's seemingly no way back for him, the hesitancy that some people have to pull the plug or to go all the way and be like he needs to go is the nervousness around the next appointment. Because every manager that United almost appoint now, with every wrong decision that's made, it heightens the scrutiny on the next manager and almost heightens the importance on getting the next manager right. And all we've seen over the past 10 years is United get it wrong time and time again. So law of averages should tell you we should eventually get it right, right? Well, United will have a funny way of surprising you. But I think what we have seen now is the route that I believe we need to take is, I know Glasner's the flavour of the month, 18 games unbeaten with Crystal Palace, FA Cup triumph. You cannot in any shape, way or form downplay that. That's unbelievable, especially managing in the Premier League. That is sensational form, that's great management, and that is beyond commendable. But the question that you always have to ask yourself with these managers is their scalability to a bigger team. Because it sounds cliche, but there is a massive difference between managing a Bournemouth, a Palace, a Brighton. Managing Manchester United is a whole different kettle of fish, especially the graveyard that it is now. And when you look into the way they play, because it is important, it does need to be taken into account. It's not quite as simple as Glasner plays the same formation as Amorim, and United have almost got United fans will almost have PTSD and trauma now from 3 at the back because of what we've seen over the past 11 months from Amorim. But it's not necessarily about that, because formations could be the same, but styles, ways of playing and system and game model can be completely different, because all formations are is a framework. But at the same time, Glasner plays a way where it's 40% possession, there's defensive solidity, quite countering and transitional. It's almost got that underdog mentality of it, where does it quite suit a team that, or does it have quite the ceiling in terms of the way of playing for the likes of a Manchester United, where the expectation in the future is to be dominating games, dominating matches, imposing ourselves on teams and challenging for the biggest and best trophies, the Champions League, the Premier League, competing with the PSGs, Barcelonas, Bayern Munichs, even the Cities and Arsenals and Liverpools now. And that's where I'm not quite sure. Obviously the characters and egos that you've got to deal with as well. But I don't quite see Glasner's way translating. I think United's recruitment now needs to be focused on the best in class that have managed big clubs and won big things for those teams. That's where United need to focus on. So I'm looking at Xavi, I'm looking at Nagelsmann. I know there's you can manage a hipster. You can be a hipster manager, a bit left field with an interesting philosophy, an interesting way of playing where you're overachieving, and they could be a success. But United have backed themselves into a corner where risks almost can't be taken as much now, because they've done that with Ten Hag and they've done that with Amorim. The only difference with them is people talk about Sebastian Hoeneß from Stuttgart. Is sometimes there's a little bit of a different allure with managers that are managing teams with lower budgets than the top teams in their league, and they're overachieving, they're maximising and optimising the players in their team. So they have that going for them. Whereas the mistake that United have made with Ten Hag and Amorim is that they've gone for managers that are managing one of the very best teams in their league, where the parity is awful, by the way, where they have such a talent disparity in their squad and team compared to a majority of the league, that the tactical weaknesses and the vulnerabilities within their systems and game model don't get exposed. So they come to the Premier League where it's an absolute gauntlet, no matter who you're playing, and you are challenged week in, week out tactically by managers and by the talent of even lower down the league. And those little issues, those little deficiencies get exposed. Big fish in small pond managers like Ten Hag and Amorim haven't worked. And that's a simple way of putting it. And I think that's where they went wrong with going for him. After what they've seen that's happened with Ten Hag, and then they don't have the ability to adapt and adjust and to tweak. Because when they were managing Ajax playing, I don't know, Utrecht or whatever, don't have to change. The players they have are better than theirs by a distance. And when you're managing Sporting Lisbon and you're turning up to play Casapia, what does it really matter if you've got a little bit of vulnerability in your defensive issues? Your talent's so superior anyway. Basically playing against League One opposition. What does it matter? Well, when you come to the Premier League, that's when it does. And then people point to how Ten Hag and Amorim did, in fairness, in the Champions League. They had some relative Champions League success, which is seen as the pinnacle of obviously club football, which is true. But you still do play teams that aren't the level or the kind of almost like tactical and physical challenges that you face in the Premier League week in, week out. And I've always think cup competitions usually aren't the best barometer anyway, because you are able to still pull off a one-off performance and victory. And so that's where that doesn't always work in a kind of seamless, obvious way. So that's why I am leaning towards the likes of a Xavi. Managed Barcelona, big club. One of the best midfielders that's ever lived. Understands football. Won the league there. Was avid for integrating youth and developing them, which has a nice little synergy to the culture and the ethos of what Manchester United is meant to be about. So you see that fit. Got Nagelsmann. Won big things for Bayern Munich. Doing well with Germany, or decently well. But international football, it's hard to correlate it. But the thing is with them two is they've actually managed for a big club, won things with a big club, and they've managed big players and big personalities. And I think that's what's important at Manchester United right now as well. And then hopefully they have the tactical nous to be good enough. But they'll at least have a bit of presence about themselves and a respect factor that the managers and that the players will get behind. And I think what you have got the likes of Cesc Fabregas, he's managing Como, and he's got a little bit of a lure as well. And then you got I know Jack Fawcett, like Sebastian Hoeneß, and people have been quite avid about him. But it's just almost, they could be successes, but there's that boom and bust factor with those where you're not quite sure how low their floor is, even though it seems quite mercurial because their ceiling could be quite high. I think United have gone past the point of being able to take that risk. But when it comes to the Premier League options, I'd actually rather... I know Iraola is similar. Iraola's managed Rayo Vallecano, who are known for biting big teams in the arse and being a bit of an underdog pain in La Liga. And he's gone to Bournemouth in a similar way, and he's made them a proper force to be reckoned with. How does he then cope with managing a team where you are a big club, the scrutiny's higher, and you're expected to dominate? There's no sneak attacks anymore. I still prefer him to Glasner. Hürzeler, I think, is too young to say. I think Brighton have been quite inconsistent under him, to be honest. When they're good, but when they're bad, they can be bad. Are you allowed that type of inconsistency being United manager? I don't think you are. I think Marco Silva was another one that was mentioned. I feel like I'd prefer him over Glasner as well. I think he has Fulham playing in an extremely fun, exciting way. Definitely a solid gaffer, but it's just, once again, no big club experience, never won anything, never managed big players. I know if you never try, you'll never know, but United are in a position where they have to get the next decision so correct that can we take that risk anymore? I think the only time we did it was with Mourinho. I don't think even Van Gaal counts because he was in the back end. But I think a post-prime Mourinho doesn't quite count. But that's where I stand on it. So let me know in the comments who would be your favourite appointment once Amorim's sacked. I was going to say if, but it feels like it's going to happen. So definitely let me know in the comments. Remember to like, comment, subscribe if you're new. And I'll see you next time.